So Memphis May Fire has finally released their album Shapeshifter. Now, I've been really anticipating this album, and I haven't really been looking forward to an album launch this long in quite a long time because, there are artists where I look forward to their songs or their albums, and I do anticipate their albums, but this one in particular, I don't know, every song on it has just been absolutely, banging, so I've just been looking forward to this album a lot, and, well, the last two songs, Versus and Love is War, have finally came out, so now I'm able to do a full album review, and this is going to be the first ever album review on this channel, so let's go ahead and dive into it, starting with the first song on the list, Chaotic.
I think I cry if I'm chaotic. I don't taste the pain when I stay neurotic.
Alrighty, so this song kind of just came out of the blue because, this was the first song that they released. Now, Memphis May Fire usually do this thing where they release the first song on the album as, the first single, but then after that, they just change it up, they released Chaotic first, then they released Paralyzed, then they released Necessary Evil, but those songs aren't really, they don't go in the order of how they are on the album, because you had Chaotic first, but then Infection is second, and then Overdose is third, so it's like a weird thing that I don't know why they do it that way, but anyways, Chaotic was the first song that they released, and like I said, it kind of came out of the blue because this was back in April of last year. It actually released around the time when I got, this setup right here, except this setup was completely different. I had a different chair, I didn't even have that shelf back there, or those posters, I just had this desk and a different chair, different mic, but yeah, they released the song around the time when I started the setup thing here, and I don't think I was as into, rock and metal back then as I am now. Over the past year or so, rock/metal sound has kind of grown on me a bit more, because before, I wouldn't listen to rock music, but if it had, the screams in it and stuff like that, I would kind of be like, ugh, but over time, it has grown on me, and now I'm, really do dig it, and so this song in particular, I think I did like it around the time when it first came out, and so, because it has this groove to it, it's an interesting way to start the album, I guess you can say, because it has this groove, and it's got the screams thrown in there, and then it's got a really interesting breakdown thrown in there.
This is my mind in action. This is my mind in action.
So, that's kind of weird that they go from this groove sound kind of thing, and then shift to a breakdown, and then shift right back to the groove thing afterwards. The only real complaint I have for this song is that it's super short. It's 2 minutes and 50 some seconds long, and usually is not that big of a deal, especially with this song. It's not really that big of a deal, but that's just kind of one complaint. I wish it might have been a bit longer, because Memphis May Fire, they usually do this thing where the breakdown is only 15 seconds long, you know what I'm saying? But that's kind of the case with this song too. The breakdown in it was usually only 15 to 20 seconds long, so it could be better, but overall it's not a terrible track. I would give it maybe a 7 out of 10. I do think it's a pretty decent song, so yeah, I would give it around a 7 out of 10 because I do like it. The chorus in it I think is really good because, like I said, it's got that groove, it's got you jumping up and down, and then it's got the crazy breakdown, and then the chorus at the end, I like that they change it up at the end there. They add an extra line into the chorus. I do like that. So yeah, overall, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. So let's go ahead and dive into the second song, Infection.
I don't live for your acceptance, won't die from your rejection.
Alrighty, this song, I think I actually prefer this song over Chaotic, even though I just made a complaint about how short Chaotic was. This song is even shorter because it's 2 minutes and 48 seconds, but I still think I prefer it over Chaotic just because even though it's shorter, it does more than Chaotic, you know what I'm saying? So the shortness of the song doesn't really affect me because, it does more with the song. There's more lyrics in the verses because it's more of the fast rap kind of thing going on, whereas Chaotic only had 3 or so lines in its verses, whereas Infection has I don't know, 10 lines in its verses or something like that. So even though it's shorter, it does more to where it doesn't matter that it's shorter than Chaotic. So, although there's an interesting story with this, and back when I was first listening to it in September is when Infection came out. When I was listening to it, I was digging the song and everything, and then at the end of the song, there's that cough in the song. You know, there's that cough at the end of the song, and I was just like, what is that? And I think I made it not like the song. Like, it made me not like the song because of that cough that was at the end of it. But over time, I've just kind of ignored it, and just because it has that one weird cough at like the last 2 seconds of the song, it doesn't ruin the song or anything. If they would have had it like the beginning of the song, or like randomly in the middle of the song, then I think it would have probably ruined it. But, you know, having it at the end of the song doesn't really affect it anyway, because, you know, it's just like a quick thing and then boom, it's done. So, like, originally I was not a fan of the song because of that cough, but because I've grown to it, it doesn't really matter. And I guess it kind of makes sense with the whole Infection thingy. And I also do like the chorus in the song, even though it's super short. I think the chorus of this song is shorter than the chorus in Chaotic, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, overall, it is not a bad song. I think I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe the same as Chaotic, 7 out of 10. One of those two ratings is what I would rate Infection, because it's a pretty decent song, and I do think I think I give it like a 7.5, just because I do slightly prefer it over Chaotic, just because it's a bit more interesting with the fast rap, and that, you know, glitchy breakdown that I kind of had going on towards the middle part.
Hide the psychosis, but actions don't lie. Your diagnosis is you're out of time, die.
I do like that, so yeah, I think I'll give it like 7.5 out of 10. So now let's go on to the third track of this song, or album, Overdose.
Hate it, but it's all I know. She's a high skin below. Feels like home. Wait until I come up to. Can't hit the brakes once I get a taste. I lose control. Yeah, I can take it slow. 0 to overdose.
Took my jacket off because it was kind of getting a little warm down here. But anyways, Overdose is the third track of the Shapeshifter album, and this was one of the last singles that they released back in January of this year. So like I said, it's kind of weird that they do this, even though this was the third track on the album. But this song has Blindside in it. Now, I didn't really know who Blindside was back before this album came out, or this song, because, you know, Blindside, I checked out their bibliography, I guess is the right word, or like their, you know, their song history and all that. And the last time they released a song was in 2019, and before that it was like 2012 or something like that. So, you know, that's probably why I've never heard of them, because 2012 I would have only been like 8 years old. So yeah, and 2019 I would have only been like 15 or something like that. So that's probably why I've never heard of Blindside before this song came out. But anyways, this song, I do like it. It's a pretty good song. I would probably also give it like a 7 out of 10, just because, I don't know, the chorus, I do like the chorus, but the only problem I have with it is that it's super short. My favorite chorus, because each of the choruses in the song are different, and that is what I do appreciate about this song that they got, is that each chorus is different in its own way. Like, you have the first version of the chorus, and then you have that second version of the chorus, which adds a bit more lines in it.
There's always such a better pill to swallow. If you don't change it, then there might be no tomorrow.
And then you got the third chorus, which also kind of changes the, how do I say it? The structure of the song, I guess you could say, because it kind of adds the lines from the second chorus into the third chorus, but the lines that are in the second chorus are kind of like mellowed out, I guess, in the third version of the chorus. But each of the choruses are different, to where I do like that they make each chorus different. But anyways, getting on to the feature of this song, I don't know if he was really necessary in this song, because he doesn't really do anything interesting, you know what I'm saying? Like, he does kind of make the chorus a bit more interesting because it goes back and forth between Maddie and I think his name is Christian from Blindside. Like, it kind of goes back and forth between the two of them, and I do like that. So that is one good thing I can say about him being added on to the song, is that it kind of goes back and forth between the two of them in the chorus. Even in the second chorus where they add those extra lines, one of them is sang by Blindside, then the other is sang by Maddie. I do like that. So yeah, overall, pretty good song. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Though the breakdown, again, super short. It's only like, I don't know, it says like 3 or 4 lines, and then the breakdown, and then the breakdown only lasts like 10 seconds or something like that. So that's kind of unfortunate. Kind of wish it lasted a bit longer. But overall, pretty decent track. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Now moving on into the fourth song, which is Paralyzed.
Paralyzed, out of body and out of mind. I'm lost in the fight or flight. Terrified, think that I might be out of time. Now I need a lifeline. I'm calling.
Alrighty, so like I mentioned, this is the second single that they released. They released Chaotic first, and then they released Paralyzed towards the end of June, somewhere around there. And I do remember listening to it on, I think it was Sirius XM when I listened to it, because it came out like, I think it was like a week before it released on Apple Music on Sirius XM. Like, you can listen to it a week early. So I remember I was listening to it a week early. And I remember when the screams like first started, because you know how Paralyzed starts with like that crazy like screaming intro.
Every day's a vicious cycle and I'm stuck on repeat. I've been over-medicated, waiting, praying for peace.
And I remember sitting there listening to it and being like, I'm not sure if I'm digging this song, you know. But then that intro only lasts like around 15 to 20 seconds, and then you got that cool little pre-chorus line there, and then you got the chorus, which I think might be my favorite chorus out of like all the 10 tracks. Maybe it might be one of the ones that we'll get into later, but this one is definitely up there as one of my favorite choruses. And if it didn't have this like super great chorus in it, I don't think I would like it as much, because of that chorus, it's probably like one of my favorite songs on this album. And I can get behind the screaming, you know, not super into the screaming, but you know, as long as it doesn't sound atrocious, then it's fine with me, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of screaming in this song. It's probably one of their heavier songs, and like I said, if it wasn't for that super catchy chorus that they have in there, I don't think I would like it as much, because, you know, I do like that it also has kind of like the fast rap in it, like Infection does, except this time it's a lot more heavy, whereas Infections was a lot more of like a melodic fast rap, whereas Paralyzed fast rap is more of like the screaming. But I do appreciate it, kind of. And I also like that they changed up the pre-chorus from the first pre-chorus, but, well, they didn't really change it. Well, I mean, they did change it. It kind of has more lines added in there with the screaming, and then it also has a different instrumental added in there, and I do appreciate that. So overall, I'd give this one also probably like a 7.5 out of 10. It is probably one of my more favorite songs on the album, and the breakdown in it was pretty dang sweet, although I wish it wasn't super short, just like I keep mentioning. And also, I don't really like how it was the bridge and then breakdown and then right back into the chorus, you know. I felt like they could have maybe done a bit more there. And the only complaint I have with the chorus is that it's the same on all 3 choruses, although if you listen closely in the song, it kind of changes with like the instrumental in each chorus. Like, there's kind of like some melodic background noises in the third chorus, and then the second chorus there's like some weird, like, I don't know, electronic noises thrown into the second chorus. So I do like that the instrumental of the choruses are kind of different, but the lines and everything are just the exact same. So that's kind of unfortunate, but overall I give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Now let's go on to the 5th song of this album, which is Hell Is Empty.
Hell is empty and heaven is near. Prayers turn to pleading and faith into fear. The evil below, now above they appear. Hell is empty.
Alrighty, this one I think might be one of my, I don't know if I would say least favorite, but I feel like they could have done a bit more with this song, because while I do like it, it's just that, I don't know, I do like that how it starts with the build-up with like that cool, like, I guess, bass, kind of with like the drums and like the, things like that. It does kind of have like this build up towards the start of the song, and I do like that. And then the second chorus, you have like the super like loud drums in the background and all that, but the choruses are exactly the same. And the weird part about this song is that there's no breakdown. Well, I guess there kinda is, because while Maddie's like screaming the devil is here, that part,
The devil is here.
and the second chorus, right after that's over, it just goes right back into the chorus again. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I kind of wish they would have, maybe added a bit of a new breakdown in there, kind of something like that, maybe. So this one might have the lowest score so far. I think I might give this one like a 6.5 out of 10, just because I do like the verses that are in the song, like the first verse and then the second verse. I do like that, and the pre-chorus that's in there, I do think that's really solid. But overall, it's kind of a lackluster song in my opinion, just because after the second chorus, or not the second chorus, after the second verse, it's just the chorus for the rest of the song, and there's still like a minute left of the song or something like that. Like halfway into the song, it's just the chorus for the second half of the song, so not super huge on that, but felt like they could have maybe done a bit more with that. But overall, the song itself is not terrible. It's not the worst, but it's just kind of meh, in my opinion, Anyways, time for the sixth song on this album, Necessary Evil.
Looking for a way out, but it's all just too vain. Time waiting, there's no sequel. Waste away to thread the needle.
Alrighty, we're over halfway into this album review. Now, Necessary Evil was the third single that they released, because they released Chaotic and Paralyzed and Necessary Evil third, even though this is the sixth song on the album. Like I said, I don't know why they do it that way, but this song is just under 3 minutes. It is 2 minutes and 57, I think. But I do think this is one of my favorite off the album, because I feel like it's one of the more unique songs that they have on the album, because it's got a lot of this rap kind of thing going on. Not just with the screaming rap, but also kind of the fast rap and things like that. And it's also kind of the same with Chaotic, where it's kind of got like this groove in the raps and stuff like that, in the verses and all that. And the chorus, I do really appreciate the chorus. It's probably one of the longer choruses that are on the Shapeshifter album here, but I do really like that the chorus is a bit longer. And also another interesting thing is that they have more than one breakdown. They got 2 breakdowns in this song. They got one right after the second verse, and then they got one right after the second chorus. And I do appreciate that, because even though this song is just under 3 minutes, like I mentioned, it's the most unique song. The 2 minutes and 57 seconds don't really matter, because you get so much in those 2 minutes and 57 seconds that it doesn't really affect the rest of the song, you know what I'm saying? So I do like that the chorus and the verses are a lot more unique compared to some of the other songs, but overall those songs aren't terrible. I would give this one like a 8 out of 10, I think. This might be the highest one we have yet, because yeah, I do really appreciate this song, and I don't really have to complain that it's super short, because like I said, you get so much in those short time frames that the short length of the song doesn't really matter, So yeah, I give this one an 8 out of 10. Now let's go ahead and move on to arguably their heaviest track yet, Shapeshifter. Alrighty, so like I said, it's probably one of their heaviest tracks I got out there, just in general, and I gotta keep things real here. I'm not super fond of songs that are just screaming songs, because this song is just screaming. There's no clean vocals, except for like kind of in the background of the choruses. There's kind of like some clean melodies thrown in there, but overall, this is a screaming song for the entirety of the song. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I can get behind screaming in songs as long as there's some melodic parts here and there, and as long as the screaming doesn't sound too bad. But, I don't know. Even though this was a super heavy song, probably one of their heaviest songs, not the biggest fan of it. Like, it's not terrible. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. But overall, I do think this is one of the more unique songs on the album just because of how heavy it is and how right after the chorus, there's usually like a cool little guitar piece in there or something like that. But for this song, it was just the chorus, and then there was like this drum roll, and then right back into the verse after that. That's not usually how things go, but that's how it was in this song. And it was interesting, you know? And obviously there is the breakdown in there, the super heavy breakdown. And I do appreciate that the breakdown in that song was long. There was like, I think maybe like 30 seconds worth of the breakdown in that song. So I do appreciate that the breakdown in that song was a bit longer than compared to normal songs. But yeah, I don't know, I wasn't really feeling the heaviness of this song, you know what I'm saying? Even though it was probably one of their heaviest songs, wasn't really for me, you know what I'm saying? But I do sometimes still listen to it from time to time. Like if I'm doing a whole like album listen where I listen to the entire album, because I do that sometimes, I will listen to this song and I will vibe with it. But I think it might just be one of my more least favorite songs because it's just one of those screaming songs entirely. And like I said, not the biggest fan of the just screaming songs. But it is one of those instances where it's not bad. Like there are some songs where it's just screaming that I'll listen to, and this is one of them. So there's that going for it. Now it's time to move on to the 8th song, The Other Side.
Fighting for your life, suffering inside, taking one more breath just to survive.
Alrighty, so I wasn't really expecting The Other Side to be one of the more chill songs on the album. I was kind of expecting that it would be a bit more heavier song, or you know, a bit more melodic song. And this song gives me huge The Fight Within vibes, you know what I'm saying? But I think I appreciate The Other Side more than The Fight Within just because, I don't know, with The Fight Within you kind of have the build up the entire time of the song, and then you have the big drums and everything at the end of the song. Whereas with The Other Side, you kind of have the big drums and everything right at the beginning, and it's kind of like that for each chorus, and I do appreciate that. Whereas, like I said, with the Fight Within, it's kind of like a build-up the entire time. And then, at the end of the Fight Within, you have the chorus sang 3 times. And it kind of gets annoying after listening to it 3 times, you know what I'm saying? But with The Other Side, you just kind of have it sang once each time. And I do appreciate that. And then, what I also appreciate is that there was no super heavy, unnecessary breakdown in this chill song, because they would have had the chill song and then a super heavy breakdown. That would have just felt really weird, but they didn't do that, so I do appreciate that. Instead, they kind of sang the bridge that they had like 2 different parts of. They sang that twice, so I do like that they did that. And then they kind of just had the bridge like continuously build up, and then stop, and then go right back into the chorus. And I do like that. So I would give this one a 8 out of 10 because I do appreciate that there's no super heavy breakdown. Although maybe they could have added like a little guitar solo, something like that in there. Or there was one song by Bridges and Blaze called Apocalypse that kind of had a super chill song, and then they kind of did an interesting little breakdown where it wasn't like super heavy, but it was kind of like chill and slow, but also kind of heavy at the same time. So maybe they could have done something like that for the breakdown if they wanted to throw a breakdown in there or something like that. But overall, I did appreciate this song. Like I said, it was not anything to what I thought it was going to sound like. I wasn't expecting this song, of all the songs on the album, to sound like The Fight Within. I was kind of expecting that Love Is War would sound kind of like The Fight Within, because it was the last song on the album. Whereas this was the 7th song in the album. Or no, not the 7th song. Oh, wait a second, I'm looking at my screen right now, right here, and The Other Side is actually the 7th song, and Shapeshifter is actually the 8th song, so I guess we're gonna have to put those 2 out of order, because I thought Shapeshifter was number 7 for some reason, because I have a list right here of the songs in order, and I forgot to look at it, and I assumed that Shapeshifter was number 7 and the other side was number 8. But yeah, the other side is in between Necessary Evil and Shapeshifter on the album, and it's kind of weird because Necessary Evil and Shapeshifter are two of like the heaviest songs on the album, so the fact that they have the other side thrown in there, one of the more chill songs in the middle, is kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, overall, I give this one an 8 out of 10. Now let's skip Shapeshifter because we already went into that, and let's go into the 9th song on this album, Verses.
Yeah, I don't see right. We can't stop it all before the worst begins.
Alrighty, so this song, Verses, I was not expecting to be kind of like a interlude thingy, though I guess it makes sense because going from Shapeshifter to Love is War is kind of has like a strange transition, you know, so I guess you kind of need that interlude thing thrown in there. But like I said, it's the 9th song on the album, so it's kind of weird that they would have an interlude on the 9th song, and maybe not like, maybe they could have had like it at the top, you know, where you have Verses number 1, and then you have Love is War number 2, and then you have, you know, Chaotic, and then Infection, Overdose, all that stuff. So yeah, this short little minute and a half long song is I don't know, it's just kind of meh, you know, because it's just, there's not really any verses or choruses. It's just kind of like, you know, a short little minute of Maddie singing, and then you kind of have the mellowed out version of the chorus from Love is War thrown in there at the end. But I do kind of appreciate that because it's kind of like a smooth transition from Verses into Love is War, because you have the, you know, you have Maddie singing lines and verses, and then after that's over, where there's like 30 some seconds left of the song, you have the 30 seconds, and then where it's just the, you know, version of Love is War, the chorus, just kind of mellowed out, and then right after that, it just does like this cool little like build up like string effect thingy, and then right into Love is War. So I do appreciate that, but because it's super short and an interlude, I kind of give it a just at a 5 out of 10, just because it's kind of like meh, you know. But I do agree that you kind of do need that interlude thrown in there. So yeah, not really much to say about this one because how short it is, so let's go ahead and dive into Love is War.
It's too late, it's time that we face it. It can't wait, there's no way to save it. Don't wanna be the one to say it's over, and your friends will never find a closure.
Alrighty, so Love is War is the last song on the Shapeshifter album, and like I mentioned, you have verses where it kind of like builds up at the end of the song, and then right after the song is over, because it does like that build up, and then the song ends, and then it just goes straight into the like guitar that it has at the start of Love is War. And I do like that transition because it's an interlude, so you kind of need that transition from the soft part of Verses right into the super heavy, arguably rivaling Shapeshifter in terms of its heaviness. But this one is a bit more unique in my opinion because it has only 2 choruses in it. There's only 2 choruses, and each chorus is different. Like, it's not the same, kind of like Overdose, where you have this first chorus, you know, pretty standard, but then the second chorus, it changes up some of the lyrics from the first chorus and is kind of saying differently. And also some of the things that I appreciate is that the screams in it kind of go back and forth between low screams and high screams, because, you know, you have the first verse of the song, pretty standard, like, you know, Maddie singing it, pretty standard how he usually would scream it and things like that. But then you have the second verse where he kind of goes back and forth between low screams and high screams, and I do really appreciate that, because when he goes into those high screams, it's like really solid, and I do like that. And of course, the pre-chorus that are in both versions of, or I guess I should say both verses, the pre-chorus in it are pretty good, and they also change up the pre-choruses just like they change up the choruses and all that. So this is one of their most unique songs on Shapeshifter, and it's probably my favorite of the songs that we got, like all 10 songs. I would probably give it a, 8.5 out of 10. I was really digging this song, and also another thing that I appreciate is that there's just no short 15-second breakdown. Instead, you get like a minute-long breakdown, because you have the second chorus, and then after that ends, there's like a minute left of the song still, and then you have the build-up, you have the build-up, and then right after the build-up, you get this super crazy, absurd, freaking loud-ass breakdown, and it's really weird because you also have like this really deep, low scream from Maddie in the really long breakdown. But it was a pretty solid breakdown, I'm not gonna lie. And like I also appreciate is that right after the breakdown, that's it. That's the end of the song. Even though this is like one of their longer songs on Shapeshifter, there's only 2 choruses, and you have a really long verse in both the first verse and second verse. So I do like that, you know. And then, like I mentioned, right after the breakdown, that's the end of the song. So it's like, what a crazy way to end the album, on just a super heavy breakdown, and then that's it. You know, no third chorus. Because I feel like if they would have included a third chorus, it would have just felt super weird. So I'm glad that they had that super heavy breakdown, and then they just ended the song there. So what a way to end the song. Congratulations. What a way to end the album, really, with that super unique song on the album. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up for this review. We are only 14 subscribers away from 600. We are 586. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And there is one album review that I was reading like a few days before this album came out. They were just hating on this album. Like, any word you could describe something being bad, like just bad, trash, garbage, like any word you can describe something being bad, they used to describe this album. And I'm just like, did we even listen to the same album? Because how could you listen to all those songs and then be like, nah, this album's ass? It doesn't really make any sense. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. You guys can give me suggestions on what I should check out next in terms of, you know, albums or songs and things like that. I was thinking about doing a reaction to Versus and Love is War, but I decided, you know what, I don't feel like waiting like an extra couple hours to hear these songs, so I just figured I would just do an album review instead of the reaction. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.